Welcome to a special episode of Truck Tech. I'm Thomas Waston, and today we're going to be talking about autonomous trucking. There's been a lot of movement. 2025 and 2027 are the two big years. If anyone's been living under a rock, the autonomous trucking companies are now on the path towards commercialization. And we're going to be talking with the folks from Waabi. They recently not only had in the past year raised a very large Series B round, but they've made partnerships with Volvo and their autonomous trucking solutions. And so there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be underpinning using their tech. And so we're going to be welcoming on their co-founder and CEO, Raquel Urtasun. And she's going to tell us a little bit about what Waabi has been up to, about especially recent raises, and the fascinating stuff on how this technology works. And Raquel, it's so exciting to get to talk to you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Thomas, and really excited to be here today.
So let's start. Let's go back a year and talk about the recent Series B funding. You got some more funding to continue the operations. Tell us about what kind of led up to that and how that started setting the stage for this path towards commercialization and partnerships.
Yeah, so we were looking for our Series B financing and being very strategic in terms of who will be the investors that will really help us in terms of building the next stage of the company. And in particular, we were looking for kind of different buckets or categories. On one side, we are obviously an AI first company, so having the best in class on AI was important. That's where Khosla Ventures and NVIDIA really excel. We were looking as well as a company, doing physical AI and starting with self-driving trucks. Logistics was important as well. That's what Uber, as well as IKEA, the Inca Group, fit really, really well with Inca Group being kind of that forward-looking shipper. At the same time, OEMs were also very important in our, as we build, our products. So having Volvo Group coming back, doubling down on our Series B, as well as Porsche SC and Scania, really completing a really nice set of OEMs. And then big financials, folks like, for example, Harbor Best, we're great to have in our cap table as we think of, potential capital needs, etc., maturity of the company in the future, and then the Canadian ecosystem, because we are a proudly, Canadian headquartered company. So that kind of founded a really well-run set of investors. And as it relates to the quantum, we actually raised more than we intended to, because there was so much interest, and we left money on the table, because everybody really understood that next generation AB 2.0 is really the approach that's going to scale. It's going to really have the capital efficiency and the ability to expand geographically the product. And it was a tremendously successful race on a moment that was pretty tricky, right? The markets were not great. The sentiment of AB was also not very positive at the time. But since we went to the market, it was very clear that this was going to be a very successful and exciting race.
And it's exciting because especially in these funding rounds, it's been really hard the past few years to get there's a lot of funding in the ZERP environment. You saw the first glut of truck, at least in the medium duty space. You had all these SPAC fueled companies, like everyone was throwing money at stuff, and then now being able to have that and have folks interested enough to say, look, we're going to exceed expectations. We really, really are interested. That's going to be kind of a big deal as well. Some of my founder buddies said that it's been really hard to raise. Some people are doing like side rounds, side grades, and that's kind of a big seal of approval or trust, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely, we saw that. It was not an easy moment for AV. Lots of promises. The 2021 market of going public, raising billions of dollars, all that stuff, was definitely gone. And who they really pay attention to was, do you have really a differentiated product that is superior to what we see in the market? are you capital efficient? Because this is not about the next 2 to 3 years. This is about, the long run and getting to, other milestones like, cash flow positive, etc. Can you really deliver this product? And what is your record in terms of delivering on your milestones? Right. And this is where actually the Waabi story was also very, very compelling, because we had these tremendously ambitious milestones from day one. And we delivered on time and under budget, all our milestones, right? And that's, as you know, in this field is absolutely unheard of, right? Whether it's always, some years away or months away and you need more cash, etc. And that, it spoke by itself. And we saw, as I said, very, very positive momentum. Really, the market got very, very excited from the beginning, and that's how you break the noise of why Waabi was successful. And it was a moment where many people did bridge rounds, lower valuations, etc. And for us was a very successful up round.
And I like the problem that a lot of folks over promised and under delivered. And it was I went to a conference and they're talking about commercialization. They said it's always 2 years from now, but now that we're finally here, the ones that are left. That's one of the big things I'm curious about. Is one of the themes always 2 years from now, AV 1.0 and then AV 2.0, because I think a lot of folks, and myself included, who just recently have been looking into the space, I didn't know there was this kind of big change in terms of how we're using the AI from the 1.0 to 2.0. Talk to us a little bit about some of these overall changes, because that's something that I'm hearing that one of the big reasons that's no longer just 2 years from now is because of some of these recent innovations in AI and how we're combining things now.
Yeah, great question. So if we look at the evolution of the technology in self-driving, right? So and in particular, we look at the incumbents in trucking. They all but Waabi belong to the what we call AV 1.0, which is this idea that you build a hand engineered system. It's a very complex software stack where you add many AI models to kind of try to solve small problems within that full system. But you still have that kind of like hand engineer approach, and an approach also where you need to drive, millions of miles in the real world to try to see what are the deficiencies of the system, what are the things that you need to improve. And then, once you observe those deficiencies, you go and build one more module or a couple of more modules to add to that, what I call spaghetti stack, right? It's a very, very complex system that nobody really understands what's going on over there. So the shift that we saw with 2.0 is, move from that robotic-centric approach to an AI lens. If you are coming, if you're an AI scientist, you actually will solve or try to solve the problem in a very different way, which is, can you really unleash the full power of AI to build a single AI system that can do all the tasks necessary for driving, right? So you went from this many things to one, and what today I will call traditional AV 2.0 is this approach that is black box based on transformer-like architecture, kind of following the steps of what we've seen in large language models, but try to bring the technology to the physical world. And so that is a more powerful AI approach, but has two problems, I will say. One is that it's a black box architecture. So it's very difficult to verify that the system is going to do the right thing. You don't have the ability to introspect if it makes a mistake, why it's making a mistake. Something that, for regulators is not necessarily something that they feel necessarily very comfortable with. And on top of this, you move from brute force by humans to brute force by AI chips and data, where you need massive amount of data. You need, a massive data center. You need potentially massive amount of energy, and that's also not an approach that is scalable. So what we built at Waabi from day one is, think of it as next generation of AV 2.0, where the idea now is it's still a single AI system, but we're going to build a system that has reasoning capabilities. where it's a bit more like how humans do the task of driving, where it's not just about trying to come up with an answer, but we understand what we see and we hear with our sensors, right? Which is the eyes and the ears. And then not only we understand what's going to happen and what's happening, but also we reason about what are all the maneuvers and things that we can do. We understand the consequences of our actions and we take the right decision. But by thinking about consequences in a way that is also interpretable, we can explain like why we're making those decisions. So that's the different type of architecture that we built from day one. And the advantages is that now is interpretable, so you can actually validate and verify it, and it requires much less data. And that's massive because then you don't need that, massive data centers. And together with our approach to data, which is the simulator, suddenly you have kind of this ability to do things with much less, so much more capital efficient, much more powerful technology, and really is going to scale geographically so that you can, and across different verticals, even beyond trucking, much faster than anybody else, right? So it's really and we see this on the road, it's amazing what this technology can do.
Well, it's also makes me wonder a lot of the NVIDIA investment talk, the new Blackstone architectures, the GPUs. That's also one of the challenges is if you're not careful and it's a linear, I need unlimited compute, then you're just going to have like an entire big box of compute because it's like an exponential need. So that's kind of where you have to blend and do a combination because there's no way either an army of people or an army of graphics cards linked all together and processing through it. Right. That was like one of the big challenges to answer.
Yeah, and I brought recently a piece on what I call sustainable AI, which is, if we go with the approach of more is more, this massive, it's the same of large language models, right? And but for the physical world, right, of this massive compute needs, massive data centers, then it's gonna become at some point even a question about should we power your home or should we power the latest AI model, right? And I don't like I don't think that the world should go in this direction. I think that the same as Waabi has been, from day one, building this much more sustainable AI technology. I think the world at large has to really pivot towards that. And we see, some interesting, I will say, signs of life of this as well in other domains, like if you look at DeepSeek and some of the buzz that has created is because you can actually train these large language models much cheaper. We should all move towards that and building, focus on not a skill, but focus on more intelligent AI systems and better, training algorithms as well.
That was one of the things I liked before we dive into Waabi Driver and Waabi World. The DeepSeek question, from how I understand it, is they just found a way that you don't have to use all this horsepower. It's like when you're driving a car and you're on the interstate, you can go down to 4 cylinders instead of needing 8. Is that kind of how, in terms of better versions of AI, not only for trucking, you want to have it to where you're not having to basically just try to solve maybe it takes like a 5 cent problem and you hit it with like $100 bills worth of compute.
Yeah, so the way I will say is that DeepSeek is a very, very well engineered system that potentially because of the lack of computer resources they were forced to actually really work on, right? And then created the ability to do things faster and cheaper, right? I will say there is a few technical interesting things there, but there is so much more that AI systems can do, and we can bring the intelligence of those systems to really the next level. And that's where I think really both academia as well as top industry should be focusing on across all the different application domains on AI, and that's where for physical AI, where Waabi has been focused on. But the analogy is if you want to just put a nail and then you build these tools that are thousands of dollars just because you want to hire a nail, right? So yes, you might actually be able to do this nail, but what are you trying to do, right? Maybe there is a much better approach that you can do things in a cheaper, more direct way.
Who would have thought that's where you need a good product manager to say maybe we don't need to buy the $1,000 hammer and we can just simply go to Home Depot and buy the $5 hammer. You never know in these. But Waabi Driver and Waabi World, this is fascinating. The first time you told me about it, it really took me a minute to wrap my head around it. But so tell us a little bit about Waabi and how it uses a Waabi driver, and then how that has a larger Waabi world, because it's such a very fascinating concept to wrap your head around.
Yeah, so Waabi Driver, our product has both hardware as well as software. So software, we just mentioned about the next generation AB 2.0, which maybe I will mention as well, has three different characteristics that are very, very important as we bring this, next generation AI technology. On one side is this ability to generalize, right? That enables you to not only train with less data, but also no matter what happens on the road, it's going to do the right thing, right? And that's very, very important because you cannot really observe everything that you might observe in the road. In the real world prior to deployment of this technology. So you need to build systems that can handle the unknown. It's also very, very efficient so that, and we have a partnership with NVIDIA that we announced a year ago for the compute that is automated graded with all the levels of safety for our trucks, right? As well as provably safe, right? And what I was talking about is, how do you, it's interpretable, so that's great, but you need to bring the standards of safety to the next level as well for the industry, right? And this is something that I'm also very, very passionate about, and I want to bring much more accountability, particularly as players. 2025, you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, that is the year of tracking. There is a lot happening. So what I want to make sure is that when people are actually potentially launching, their driverless solution, including Waabi, we do it in a way that we actually are very transparent and we really do a scientific safety case. What do I mean by this? Is that the safety case, just for the reasons that are not familiar, or the listeners that are not familiar, is this idea that you want to prove that the system is safer than a human and is safer to be deployed on public roads without a human on board. This is a level 4 system. We are talking about self-driving trucks, Class A trucks, where there will be no one in the tractor, right? So if you look at why is this very, very complex, is that the rate of events on highways where most of the driving is happening, right? As you think of interstates, the rate of events on highways is very, very rare. And that's a good thing, right? That if you look at human drivers today, property damage is more or less every 100,000 to 150,000 miles. If you look at a small body injury, that will be every million and a half. If you look at severe bodily injuries, every, say, 10 million miles. If you look at death on the road, this is by human drivers again, right? Is every 100 million miles, right? So it poses the question of, if you want to do a safety case based on, I have driven enough on public roads, how many miles do you need to drive in order to be able to assert that indeed your system is safe? We are talking about, you need to observe this several times to be statistically significant. So, it will be probably on the hundreds of millions, maybe billions. And nobody has the fleets, and also you shouldn't be just cranking miles in order to prove things, right? So nobody can actually make a safety case with data. And that's very problematic, in my opinion, right? So the industry has been moving towards, maybe we can use simulation as a tool, and that's great, right? But then if you want to use simulator to make your safety case, you need to prove that that simulator is realistic. If you're not able to prove the realism of the simulator, it doesn't matter how much you spend on the cloud on simulations. Because if what you observe on simulation is different in terms of the behavior of the system, you're not proving anything, right? So this is actually a call of action that for everybody that's putting a safety case out there, if you don't show that realism, if you don't show that you indeed are covering this space of scenarios and things, doesn't matter how many simulations you show. And together with physical driving is not enough. Well, are you actually putting a safety case that is informed? How do you know that this system is actually safe? And I will say that this is an area where really Waabi is at the forefront of that kind of, we call it safety 2.0, and I'm very, very excited. So that's, one bit. And, we talk about simulation as being key for safety case, for testing. And what is cool for Waabi is that simulator also serves to train the system. And these are two different AI systems, right? The one that actually drives the trucks and the simulator are both based on Gen AI, but they are not the same system. Obviously, you don't want to reinforce itself. That's not something that is safe either, right? You're just fooling yourself that you're doing a good job because you're just training with yourself.
It reminds me, it's the Waabi world to the Waabi driver. The closest thing I can think of is a much safer version of Westworld, where you have a world build that is being fed information, but fidelity is one of the key things to think about. And I think that's so fascinating because the only time I've ever heard it was when watching Westworld, was like, how much can we have this agent act within a way within the simulated world, and how close can it resemble what a reasonable person would be? And I think that's so fascinating that in the autonomous trucking space, you all are trying to answer the same question, but you're using a real world collected data. You're through the collection of all these sensory inputs, and you're basically building a world within a world that you can cross-reference it and then show, hey, this is the validation. If we ran this for X amount of hundreds of millions of mile computations, we're safe. That's really cool. I haven't really heard of it thought in that terms, but is that kind of this ability to have a parallel, I guess some called it the digital twin or something, is that kind of where a lot
Yes.
of folks are heading, or is that like a uniquely Waabi thing?
Right now it's a uniquely Waabi thing, and definitely as standards for safety should be put to the next level, and as you need to prove your realism, that's gonna force people to actually go on the next level for their simulation systems as well. And I think that this is a very exciting thing, right? Because we need to just continue to improve the standards of safety of the industry. So maybe worth explaining a little bit, like what you were talking about, what is this digital twinning and all this stuff, is that, if you want to prove that, your simulator is realistic, it's not about does it look cool or can, to the naked eye and whatnot. It's really about when you're testing the entire system that is going to drive on the real world, you're testing that on simulation, and they're exactly the same situations, scenarios, etc. Is the system reacting in the same way? For example, we know that one of the things that is hard is the sun is shining in front of you, where it can actually limit your perception system. And together with a complex scenario, maybe makes your motion planning to be your reasoning system for us, to be more difficult to perform well, right? So under that is that exact situation and combination, if you were to observe in the real world and you were to observe it in simulation, will your system do exactly the same maneuver, right? That's kind of what you need to measure, and you need to measure over all the possible things that you might observe, right? And if you're able to make that comparison, suddenly you have a mathematical way to really prove the realism of your system. And that's massive unlock for the industry. Now, in order to be able to create exactly the same situations, you're not going to do it by hand as some of our competitors are trying to do with their simulation. There is no way that you can scale that to all the possible situations and in a way that is also high fidelity, right? You need to be able to create clones of the world. So this is where a lot of the recent breakthroughs in era simulation, including Waabi World, are really, really exciting because it allows you to create these digital twins automatically. And then you can use this content to create new things that you haven't observed, right? But it grounds you and enables you to make that comparison, and then finally have a framework to validate and verify the simulator, and then you can use it for your safety case. So it's no more of I ran, I don't know how many unprotected laps. Doesn't matter, right? Is not only I run all these things, but actually I can prove you they were all unique and they all are representative of the environment, and they were all with exactly the fidelity such that if I would have observed that in the real world, my system will have done the same thing. And that's a massive, massive unlock. And I really want the industry to really embrace the challenge, because we need to set ourselves to a higher standard than what it is today.
And it was it's a lot of food for thought as well, because like you said, the safety component, and we're running short on time, unfortunately. I feel like I do a whole hour we're gonna have to do a FreightWaves extended here, and because I think that a lot of folks just understanding how this stuff works is like half the battle. But since we're running a little short on time, one big thing is if folks want to learn more safety cases, Waabi, some of your information. What's the best way to not only get more resources but get more info about Waabi as well?
Yeah, so a lot of the technology and things are available on our website. There is also some lectures and things. I like to really showcase what we do externally, and it's important for trust. We're gonna revamp all that and add more and more information as as we gear towards driverless launch, which we are gonna be ready by the end of the year to really launch our product, make all that really scientific safety keys, and then be able to potentially save many lives on our roads, right? So it's a very exciting moment, and we have everything as well right now for not only launching driverless, but more importantly, also we have a path to scale, right? And that's where the Volvo partnership that we announced a couple of weeks ago was very, very exciting. That not only we have the technology from the Waabi driver perspective, we have Waabi World for making the safety keys, but now we have the OEM and our go-to-market partnership, so that we can integrate vertically into the Volvo VNL autonomous, and then have a solution that scales. And I'm very, very excited about where the company is today, and it's amazing to see. And as you look at our we've been only at this less than 4 years. And if you look at our, capital that we have utilized so far, is a fraction of what our competitors have, and where we are positioned on the technology and the differentiator, and really being the leader of that next generation. There is a lot of really exciting things that you're going to hear from Waabi over the next couple of months and years to come, and I can't wait, to have more conversations, and then go really deep also on the technology, because I think it's important that to explain what it is really in detail, so that people understand, and you can really build trust.
Perfect. Well, Raquel, we're very excited as well, and super excited as you all release more information. It's going to be a big year, so definitely keep us in the loop, and we'll talk to you again soon.
And that's a great chatting today, Thomas.
That's going to be a wrap for this episode. If you're just joining us, though, we're on Apple, YouTube, and Spotify. Check out the folks at Waabi. A lot of great stuff as well. And while you're at it, sign up for the Truck Tech newsletter. It goes out every Friday. You can find it at freightwaves.com/trucktech. As always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again soon.